Good evening, Drew.
I cannot stop pooping.
Okay. Is this going to be a problem for the next hour?
Well, it's better than it was.
Okay.
I am able to at least kind of sit still for a little while, but the past 48 hours has been a little rough.
No. Did you get some food poisoning or something? Or?
I think it is. I don't think it's the flu. I don't have any other symptoms. Like, I'm not, nauseous, and I don't have a headache, and I don't have any kind of, pains or shakes or anything that might lead me to believe it's anything more than just a little touch of food poisoning. Turns out I was in Nashville at the start of this week. I was there for 3 days, and they were pretty jam-packed days. By the time I got back to the hotel each night, I really didn't feel like going back out anywhere. So I did a couple nights of Uber Eats. First night was really good. Had some local Chinese food, perfectly fine. Everything was good. They had basmati rice or basmati rice. I don't know how you say that.
Something like that, yeah.
They had that for the rice, and it was really good. And I really enjoyed that meal the first night. So I thought, I'll roll the dice. I'll roll the dice again. I'll go Uber Eats again. And what I really, really wanted was some good hot chicken, but all those places weren't delivering that night for some reason. So I took a chance on a local wing shop. And I got a little sampler plate of a few different flavors, and boy, oh boy, did that mess me up.
Oh no!
And we drove down there with a coworker of mine, and just a really, really uncomfortable car ride home. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I was in officially not trust a fart territory, but when you have to poop so much, farting helps alleviate some of that pressure. So you can kind of let one sneak out, but oh my god, the stench that was coming out of me, I didn't want to subject that to my passengers, so I held it in. So we just made a lot of stops on the way home, and it was rough. And it just continued through today, and I'm doing better now. Drinking a lot of water, drinking a lot of starchy foods, trying to not starch, or maybe it's starchy foods. I don't know, something that's really kind of helping my stomach settle a little bit. But my butt, my butt hurts. Like, I've never had hemorrhoids. Maybe I've had hemorrhoids, but I've never had an issue where my butt physically hurts from pooping. Like, that is.
Yeah, I've been there once. Yeah, it's like a sore muscle from exercising. It's just
Yeah, that is the best analogy for this current situation. I got some Prep H with some lidocaine, and oh boy, I'm not addicted to opium, but if I was. That would be definitely a gateway drug, because it makes my little bottom feel so much better.
Well, I'm sorry about your butt and your pooping, Drew.
Yeah. Well, I'm dealing with it. It's getting better. It's getting better.
Good,
yeah,
good.
So I'm back now. A good productive week. Good productive week. Hopefully no more travel for the rest of the month, but that remains to be seen. And yeah, we're going to see what happens. How about you? What's going on?
Well, I have some travel in my future. Yeah.
Where are you going?
Yep. Going to hold on, that's a good question. Let me check my email app. I should know this. We're going to Columbia, which I guess is in South Carolina?
That is South Carolina or Georgia.
Yeah, or maybe I don't know, one of those. I don't know. I just hey, get on this flight and go. So South Carolina. We're going to be in South Carolina. Yep.
Okay. Columbia's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. Yep. Supposedly the best tasting tap water in all of America.
Ooh, okay.
I had a good cousin of mine go to South Carolina. Helped her move into the dorm down there when she went to school there. Beautiful, beautiful little town. Yeah, is this a work trip?
It's a work trip. Yep.
Neat.
Yeah.
Going with a group of people then?
Yeah. Okay. Mostly just get to sit in meetings. It'll be fun.
My condolences.
Yeah, it's all right. It's
Is your good friend Corey King going?
No, he's not going.
Oh, I love that guy.
But, I've been at this job for 12 years now, and this is the first time that I've had to travel for work. Not, I don't count going to a conference because that's kind of fun, but so it's not too bad. Had a good run.
When you and I were at the same job, I had to travel for work, but it was only to Dayton, and that was, I don't consider that a work trip. That's an hour and a half drive.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's fun. When do you leave?
Monday morning.
Okay. Whole week or?
No, it's Monday. Fly out Monday morning, come back like Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Now, are you flying to Columbia is the question. Or are you flying to like somewhere else in South Carolina and then driving?
Yeah, I think we're flying somewhere else and then driving.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not an easy place to get in and out of by air.
Yeah.
Trying to remember if there was any good restaurants from my time down there. We went to one place that had really good burgers. It was on campus, but I can't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up for you. That's a good show notes thing.
Good deal.
Yeah, so I have I was really proud of myself this week, Paul. I was a programmer once upon a time. I never got into this whole .NET thing that you kids are so excited about. But you know, I know my way around a method or two. So I had an opportunity to write my first .NET Core app. And I noticed that you also did something cool in .NET Core this week. So let me hear about your adventures.
Okay, I can go first. Okay, so this was very much work related. We're a big Microsoft shop. Lots of ASP.NET, lots of web apps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we're kind of just transitioning to a .NET Core, because it's, that's where Microsoft's putting the wood behind the arrow. Like .NET framework, the capital F framework is pretty
Hold
much
on.
done.
Did you just drop some kind of weird management analogy on me?
Maybe, I don't know.
It's like I don't even know you anymore. Continue.
So anyhow, as a company, we're switching to .NET Core, kind of piece by piece as developers have time. But we're still primarily running everything on Windows. Well, me and my team, we kind of do like a lot of DevOpsy stuff, and we have like one internal app that we use to kind of manage like production releases. It's very simple. So I got like a little bug up my butt, and I ported it to .NET Core, and then I didn't want to stop there. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to run this on .NET Core, like I would sure love to run this on a non-Microsoft operating system. But we use SQL Server. We're big on like integrated security and using Windows authentication for SQL Server. I'm like, you know what? I bet you if I figure out how to do, get all my Kubernetes stuff, not Kubernetes, god dang it, Kerberos stuff working, I could run my web app on my Mac or Linux box and still use integrated security, and it absolutely works.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Good old krb5.conf.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Just pointed at your domain, and it just kind of works. Well,
Yeah,
good
it just
for
kinda
you.
works. Yeah. It was very,
So, are you going to put this app in a container, or?
Well, so, probably eventually. We still have to productionize it. We still have to deal with some stuff. Those Kerberos tokens don't last forever. They expire. So we'll have to deal with, when you're just running some command line stuff from the prompt, you don't really have to worry about that. But these long-running things, we'll have to deal with that token expiration and stuff. So once we kind of figure that part out, then, the next part would be, putting it in a container and running it.
That is super cool. I'm glad you're taking that journey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so my .NET Core chops came in the form of this week is I was helping a customer start using the cognitive services in Azure.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this. What does that stuff do?
Yeah, so cognitive services in Azure is kind of like a blanket term for different kind of pre-trained machine models for different things. So we have APIs for like computer vision, for OCR. For speech recognition, for chatbots, we have kind of these canned ML models, right? Because think about this, like, let's say you wanted to do a bunch of OCR, and like way back in the day before we had fancy things like machine learning and models and stuff like that, you probably had to go out and buy some OCR software. It probably didn't have an API. You, at best, could maybe batch up a bunch of things and have someone click a button. And over the years, developers have opened up libraries and internal APIs to these off-the-shelf things. But with like machine learning, if you want to get in and you really want to do like image recognition or pattern recognition, edge detection, like if you want to do like some of the cooler stuff with machine learning, you basically have one of two options. One, you can go through the process of training a model yourself. And as someone who tried to make a Gene or Not website at one point where I took pictures of Gene and fed it to a model to basically have it recognize Gene's face. It's not especially easy. Like there's a ton of libraries you can use to train. There's a ton of models, like a ton of like machine learning libraries out there you can use to train models to do just that. But you have to bring your own images to the party. You have to train it. You have to basically score it. You have to, kind of give it the care and feeding. But like Cognitive Services aims to like basically give you a production ready model for these type of scenarios where, you obviously pay for it. It's an Azure service. You spin it up. And you have a bunch of different ways to interact with it. So the way that I was showing it off to a customer was there are a bunch of libraries for .NET Core. So I wrote a .NET Core C# app that calls this API a few different ways and returns different objects for different things. We've got a bunch of ones that are in preview right now that are pretty exciting too, like form recognizer. So instead of just doing traditional OCR, it'll actually recognize a form and give you back like bit fields for like, was this box checked or not? And it's pretty exciting stuff. More and more customers want this. If you don't have the time, or I hate to say the skill, but just like the knowledge gap to basically train your own model. Now, granted, like you're using like a commercialized model, so it may not be exactly tailored to your specific use case, but like if you were reading in a bunch of like letters, like either handwritten or typed, and you just needed to know what was in them, like it's a pretty easy way to get started. It's not super expensive. And the other thing that I found really interesting about this was we also offer, I believe, the ability to run these in containers. So if you don't want to call an Azure service, you can get a key and pull down a container and call your container service locally instead of calling up to Azure, which I think is really compelling too.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah. I'm just it's not very expensive either. I was poking around, as somebody who has, works for a company who has lots of recorded phone calls. I was looking at the speech to text stuff, and it's like $1 per hour of audio. That's practically nothing.
And like for the Vision API, depending on what tier you sign up for, you will be throttled if you go over a certain number of calls per second or something. So like if you were doing this if you were doing this in batch, you could just batch it up in such a way that you could do a bunch when you needed to and then not. So honestly, like that was kind of the easiest part of this whole kind of proof of concept. The bigger thing is like, you have a .NET Core application that basically opens an image file and streams it to this API. But like, it's kind of the steps leading up to that are the trickier thing to solve, because like, where are your images going to live? Are they going to live locally? Are they going to live in like blob storage? Are they going to live somewhere else? So like building that whole pipeline of someone uploads an image and then using something like an Azure function or through your Azure Storage change feed, detecting that a new file has been uploaded, and then calling this function, which then tells you what's in the file and then stores that out in Cosmos DB. Like, honestly, like that's what I signed up for when I took this job. Like this is the stuff that I'm like thrilled to be working on. Yeah, it's super, super cool stuff. So, but I was really proud of myself, and like I had a choice. Like these APIs, like we have them for Python, we have them for .NET, we've got them for Node, we even have some APIs for Go. So tell a friend of the show, Nick Dunn, if he's still writing Go, he can do this too.
Go's very popular these days, very trendy.
Yeah, that and Erlang, I'm told. I don't know. I'm just saying words.
Different spaces, but yes. Yeah.
I'm just saying words that I hear. But
Haskell.
Yeah, Haskell. Woo! Give me one Haskell, please. So there's all these different libraries, and like I'm pretty familiar with Python. Like I can hack my way around Python. It's a slightly more complicated version of PowerShell is just basically how I describe it to people, but with different versions that you can run at the same time. But so I took it upon myself to actually build a .NET application locally on my Mac and test it, and it worked. Obviously I had to leverage some tutorials to get started because I'd never built a skeleton .NET project before, but they make it super easy. It's just .NET.
Sure
do. .NET new. It basically gives you a skeleton main method in a program.cs file and .NET run, and you're set. So
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. What I'm curious about with .NET Core though, like can I compile that? Like if I wanted to run that like natively without .NET Core, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, you absolutely can. What you do is when you're at the command line, right? You can do .NET publish -- self -- contained, and then you basically have to specify what runtime you're targeting. So whether you're targeting like Linux, Mac, or Windows, and then it'll produce a lot more files because it's basically every like .NET Core DLL that it needs to run. But it will produce all that for you, and then you can distribute that without needing them to have .NET Core installed.
Okay.
So your output is a lot bigger, but one of the big reasons that like even like where I work, where we kind of control the operating system and the environment these applications run in. The reason we still do that is it allows each team to kind of target what version of .NET Core they want without having to worrying about that being installed on the server. So we do these fat self-contained publishes for all of our web apps as well.
They thick though.
Oh yeah. They're much bigger, right? Because it's basically every .NET Core, and there's actually some tools out there that will thin it if you want. So it basically looks at what you call and only it kind of strips out the parts you don't need. But I mean, for me, disk space is cheap and I'm lazy. So
yeah, and it's nice because then, you don't have to rely on other people to have those frameworks installed, which has always been the bane of .NET itself, right? Is you have you upgrade .NET on a server and whoops, everything breaks. So
yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but like sometimes those framework upgrades do cause bugs, and so that's why it's that dash self-contained is really nice as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, neat. So, like, are you guys aiming to get completely off Capital F framework then, or what's going on?
I mean, it's honestly mostly coming from the developers. They're super excited about it. Because like that's where all the hotness, like, even like open source is moving very much like .NET Standard and .NET Core, and it's kind of dropping a lot of baggage that the .NET framework had. Years of backwards compatibility and weird bugs that they coded around. I mean, it's all open source, and you know what? It's faster.
It is.
So, like,
it is pretty fast, right?
Yeah, even taking the exact same code and just running it, compiling it through .NET Core with no code changes, like you can easily get a 30% speed increase.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah. So, we're not making a focused effort. We're not doing it all in tandem, but as dev teams have the kind of time, they're porting bits and pieces of their application over to it, and we had some really performance critical stuff that has switched over to .NET Core, and it's made a pretty big impact.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I seem to remember from my time with working with John Kruger that entity framework and different ORMs are a very, very big thing. So are they also kind of simultaneously migrating to like EF Core as well, or?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. That's exciting. As somebody who uses a Mac on a daily basis, having like PowerShell Core and .NET Core and all those things, like I actually installed the full-blown version of Visual Studio on my Mac thinking I was going to need it, but honest to goodness, like with the right extension, Visual Studio Code handled it just fine, like a champ.
You know what? I installed Visual Studio for Mac today as well to kind of just, not having used it before, to kind of kick the tires. And it's fine. Like it does.
Yeah, it's
like a lot of the stuff, but yeah.
It's the Visual Studio you know and love or hate.
Absolutely.
But like after I opened that up, I'm like, ugh, dependencies, I'm out of here. I just went over to Visual Studio Code and hacked together my code. I mean, granted, like I don't have any external classes or libraries or anything. Mine's a total dog poop application. It's just like one main class with a couple methods in it. Like it's nothing. It's some static strings. Woo. But I don't do this for a living, so.
Yeah. And that's another reason, me personally, the reason I'm so excited about .NET Core is the tooling is so much better. Like, back in the day when you're doing, classic .NET framework apps, you're so dependent on, Visual Studio being installed on your build servers and running everything through there because it was kind of just this big black box. And now with it just being all command line, you just do, .NET restore, .NET publish. It's our pipelines for our .NET Core app are much simpler. They're much more future proof because you basically say, hey, use this version of the SDK. If it's not installed, it installs it, and then you just off to the races, right? There's no
so
other dependencies involved.
So far from it for me to, backseat DevOps, your current organization. But what I'm wondering is, now that you're kind of making this bigger jump to .NET Core, how long do you think before you totally kind of change up how your build and deployment pipelines work? Like, will you ever target a day where you basically have something like, say, a Kubernetes cluster that can dynamically build, containers for build servers and then build your code and then deploy them? Or
I mean, you know what? It could be in the future. I mean, we already have a handful of Linux build servers because they're easier to stand up. And those are building, like, we've had some issues building everything, but it builds a significant amount of our .NET standard stuff, which is kind of that middle ground between framework and core. So we've had good luck building .NET stuff on Linux servers already. So...
See, that would be the ultimate. Instead of having static build servers, you could just have build servers on demand, right? So then you could basically have a cluster where you say, okay, I need a pod with .NET Core version whatever. You can have those images. They're images you build yourself and host in your own container repository, either locally or in Azure. You pull those down. You spin up the build server. You copy using an artifact. You copy your code into the container. You do your build, and then when it's done, you copy the code out and deploy it where you need to deploy it, and then the container goes away. Like that, to me, I get it. Like I have, like, working with you has transformed my mind in so many things, and then working with containers as much as I do now, like I'm just looking. I have a hammer and I'm looking for nails. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like in 6 months or a year, just kind of a built-in feature of Azure DevOps. Because right now, like when you have an agent, you have to download,
right?
You have to download a piece of software and you have to register it. So you have like a static list of things. But I definitely see it already has that, because
yes, it does.
In an Azure, like, we're so close, right? Because a pipeline can specify like demands, right? So like I need to have Java installed, or I need to have sometimes you're using like a third-party library and that needs to be installed and available on the build agent. But there's no reason why you couldn't have, like, hey, if you have these capabilities, this is the kind of pod you have to spin up to do it. And it just like you have so many just available to run, but if you're at capacity, just well,
that's how I don't have a peek under those covers because that's a whole different team in the company, but like, I'm fairly certain that's how Azure DevOps works under the scene for the self-hosted build agents. Like you get a container.
Absolutely is. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get a
container. Just waiting for that to support to come for the local hosted build agents. Yeah.
Or you just do your own build agents, right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
Because you guys rely on Azure DevOps for your repos, but all your builds and deployments, I think, are happening outside of Azure DevOps today, right?
Yeah, so like the Azure DevOps manages the build agents and stuff, and like when you request like a build or a pipeline to run, it kind of forwards the request back into your network to run. And the big reason we do that is because like I think I mentioned this before. Like we use a third-party tool for our deployment pipelines. So those build servers, and that's not on the internet because, I mean, we could put it on the internet, but if it was ever breached, like we'd just be all kinds of hosts. Like that thing pretty much has the keys to the castle. So we use local on-prem build agents so it can communicate with that. But you're right. Like when you use the self-hosted stuff, like you don't have a dedicated machine. Like, and every time you run a build on the the shared Microsoft hosted agents, everything's nice and clean. So it does smell like definitely that's probably under the covers using at least if not pure on Kubernetes, it's probably using containers. And I really would be surprised if that kind of flexibility doesn't come downstream and into your own, like, instead of being able to have to set up a server and install the agent and get it all configured, you just point Azure DevOps at a, Kubernetes cluster and you're done.
All right. Well, let's see. What else we got going on? So before we jump into the Great Temptation, let's just go ahead and ask Paul, did you get a new MacBook yet?
I have not.
Okay.
But so we'll get to there. There's a giant but to that.
Yeah. Well, let's just get there, and then we can probably by the time we're done talking about this, we could probably cap with why I probably won't be getting a MacBook for a while. But go ahead, let's talk. Let's get into it. So tell me about it.
So I was listening to the most recent episode of the Spectacular Accidental Tech podcast today.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Episode 355, The Way Corn Grows. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's a good episode. So it kind of made me have an epiphany. One of the hosts has basically been having some computer problems and is in the process of buying a new iMac Pro. And the question came up what he's going to do with this old one. And his old computer is basically haunted. Like it doesn't work well. Another host basically says, well, you could see how much Apple would pay you for it. And I kind of knew that Apple had a trade-in program where you could but I've always been associated with phones, right? You can bring them your old phone and they'll pay you a couple $100 credit off of your new phone. Well, it turns out they also do it for everything. So when you buy a Mac, you can trade in. In fact, they even take trade-ins on computers that aren't Apple, but who would do that anyway? So I'm like, you know what? I wonder how much Apple would give me for my old MacBook. How much I could put towards the purchase of a new MacBook Pro. And, so I have let's see if you can guess, Drew. Let's see. I have a 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2017. It is a 2.9 quad-core Intel i7 with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard drive. How much do you think Apple would be willing to pay me for that computer?
So I know what mine is worth because I too have looked at this program, and we'll talk about my experiences and expectations here in a minute. But I'm gonna say you're gonna get about $1,500.
It's a little under that. It's $1,240 is what they're quoting me right now.
Okay,
which that's a pretty good chunk of change off of. Because I don't want to keep this computer because the keyboard is like a rickety bridge, like it's going to literally fall apart any minute. But getting about $1,200 for Apple for this to be Apple's problem, and I get that off of my $3,000 MacBook Pro, so it's almost half of the cost of a new MacBook Pro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was really close to doing this. So I really like the concept of the trade-in program just because I know that my MacBook Pro is in perfect working condition, and I can certainly create an eBay listing and talk about how long I've had it, what I've used it for, take really close-up pictures of it to show that it's in perfect condition, and disclose the fact that it had the keyboard replacement but has the quote-unquote final butterfly keyboard, right? Like I can document everything. I have the receipts. But I don't know. Like I've heard just as many horror stories as I've heard non-horror stories from people selling computers on eBay or even buying computers on eBay. And I know that I could easily get $2,000, maybe a little bit more for my current configuration because it's space gray, it's in great condition, it's the last of the butterfly keyboard models with the keyboard that supposedly won't break anymore. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, so it's a non-standard configuration. So I feel like I could recoup about $2,000. Now, Apple, if I go through the trade-in program, is offering me I think it was $1,680, I think is what it worth. Because Apple's
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have a Mac or if you have any Apple really, when you go to the trade-in website, which we can put a link to, it just asks for your serial number and it just kind of knows about your computer. It asks you some basic questions about the state of it, and then it gives you a number. And then when you order your new computer, they're going to send you a box to ship the old one back in and then just basically credit your account. So if you're like me, who's all about all things Apple, and you have an Apple card, you just put your computer on the card, you save a little bit of money that way. You get a decent amount of cash back, I think. You ship your old computer back, and you're not going to pay the $3,000 or $3,200 that I would probably pay for the configuration I want. yeah, I'm still going to pay a decent amount, but I'm not going to pay the full amount. And it's kind of like peace of mind where, like, yeah, Apple's going to handle it. I'll wipe it and I'll send it to them, and then they're going to take it and refurbish it and sell it, and they'll probably make some money off it, maybe. Or take it for parts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Take it for parts, end up in the refurb program. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm also hesitant to I'm also hesitant to sell any of my, electronic devices to, strangers or even worse, people I know. Like,
see, I don't have that problem. Like if a coworker said to me, Drew, hey, I heard you're getting your MacBook, I would sell it. My thing is, though, I would never sell something that I knew that wasn't in perfect working condition.
Yeah. Like just the implied support just makes me uncomfortable. I don't know. Like, oh, well, I had your computer for 4 months, and then this happened.
Wow, it sucks to suck. Like, hey, what do you want me to say? I don't know where you put this thing. And
I really don't want to give anybody, like, this keyboard is like nobody should use this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know me. I've sold computers and computer parts to people at work, and it's
had good luck. Yeah,
it's worked out. I when I get my MacBook Pro 16-inch, I will definitely be probably using the trade-in program. Yeah, I'm probably going to lose $600-700 at most, but the peace of mind and the ease and the convenience just kind of makes it worth it. Let's be real.
Yeah, I feel in the same way, and I've got some time off that I'll be cashing out here at the end of the year. So there's a possibility that come the new year, that may be what I end up doing. We'll see. It's very tempting. That is a much bigger number than I thought it would be.
Okay.
Just to kind of get rid of this albatross and get a new MacBook, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds really exciting. That sounds really exciting.
We'll see.
Yeah, so like I said, I was really about to do this, but I have begun to prepare the way at my house. And if you get that reference, Paul, I think you probably do.
I should. In fact, I'm going to put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
To the episode.
So I have made the first 2 of 3 purchases for the new home PC project.
Oh, it's happening.
It's happening. So I think I mentioned on last show that I'm, going to be switching from Intel to AMD in my home kind of PC/gaming/productivity station. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have decided that I'm not going to do Threadripper. I'm just going to do Ryzen 9 3950.
What is the difference between those 2 chips?
About $1,000. Well, no, I mean,
okay, performance-wise. Okay,
yeah. Okay, so in order to properly compare this, you need to have 3 columns in your imaginary spreadsheet right now. The first is with a typical Intel, like not Intel high-end desktop PC, which the garbage chips they just released and then basically cut $1,000 off and released the same day as the new Ryzens and Threadrippers, but that's a whole other story. Basically,
they're trying to be competitive, Drew.
They're trying to be competitive, but AMD has completely eaten their lunch, and that's not me trying to be edgy or that's not a clickbaity title. That's just kind of point of fact at this point. My thing is, look, I'll be real. The most of my time I spend on my PC is for gaming, and Intel crazies will scream, well, if you're gaming, Intel's still kind of the champion, and that's kind of true with some metrics. My thing is that I want more flexibility out of my entire system than just gaming. Like, even though I don't typically do more than game, I do a fair amount of development on my PC still. I do a lot of, things other than game on my computer. I'm going to probably take a stab at streaming in the future.
Okay.
That's a little bit down the line. But for me, the biggest advantage of switching away from the traditional Intel platforms right now is the number of PCIe lanes I get on my desktop. Because, the current kind of king of gaming is the Intel i9-90KS or whatever it is, and that's built on a traditional kind of Intel not high-end desktop PC motherboard platform. And you're kind of limited in the number of PCIe lanes you get. So, like, for me right now, in my current computer, running a motherboard of that particular style and flavor, I'm really limited in terms of how much storage I can have. And when I say storage, I mean, like, real storage, not SATA storage, like actual, like, PCIe storage or things like that. So, like, if you load this up with a beefy graphics card and you get a couple M2 drives in it, you're really limited to what else you can kind of throw in this thing. But with AMD's platform, even like their non-Threadripper builds, like if you move into the AMD like 3900, 3950, and you have like an X570 chipset board, you get more than enough PCIe lanes. You have basically higher supported memory speeds out of the box. You get a couple other really nice features built into the boards. And if you're not buying a Threadripper board and you're not buying some crazy custom board, they're actually pretty competitively priced to the Intel gaming boards that I would be buying. So the 3950 is going to be a nice upgrade. Yes, again, I get it. Like if you're reading certain benchmarks on the internet, you'll see that Intel has this edge in gaming. And listen, if I was stuck gaming at 1080p, you're absolutely right. But like once you start getting into higher resolutions, we're talking about a 2 to 3 frame difference. So so the 3950 is going to be a nice upgrade. Now the Threadrippers are definitely higher core count. They're bigger chips. They require way more cooling. I mean, the 3950 is no slouch, but they require way more cooling. They have way more PCIe lanes, but those chips are truly targeted for the creator space. But what I find interesting is that the mid-tier Threadripper, not the lowest and not the highest that's currently out, and they're coming out with an even bigger one in the not-too-distant future. It's like 64 cores, 128 threads, which is like a server chip at that point, but whatever.
Yeah.
It actually scored pretty well in gaming metrics as well. But, the motherboards for those are a little pricier. The motherboard that I have purchased for my new build was only less than $400. Like, a decent motherboard for Threadripper is probably double that. So the cost of the chips is higher, the cost of the motherboard's higher. The memory speeds are about the same, like the memory costs are about the same. And the other thing I'm really excited about moving to an AMD platform, whether it would be Threadripper or the 3950, is I'm going to have support for PCIe Gen 4, and I've also got a PCIe Gen 4 hard drive that I'm going to be putting in this thing, so that's higher bandwidth and higher speed. So I'm really excited, and then the whole custom water loop thing. So I pretty much have everything I need except the processor right now.
Okay.
I'm basically just stalking Micro Center on a daily basis to see if they get them in. Look, AMD has a hit on their hands. These are hard to find chips. This is coming from somebody that scored an i99 100K when they launched about a year ago or whatever when I built this thing. It did take a couple weeks for me to get my hands on one because I didn't go to the launch day event. I will get one, but it's the only thing holding me back right now. My water cooling parts are about to ship, so I almost have everything I need to build this thing. And it's going to be fun. I'm really, really excited to kind of dig into building my water cooling loop. I think it's going to frustrate me to no end. I think I'm going to get really, really frustrated really, really quickly with it because I'm going to have all these computer parts where in the past, like you just slap an AIO cooler on it, you're good to go. The fact that I basically have to like pre-flush the radiators and clean them with vinegar to get all the solder out and then like let those dry and then bend some tubes with a heat gun and like measure in 3 dimensions. Yeah.
So it's more prep work to get the build.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of prep work. So yeah, like I said, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a nice challenge for me. It'll keep me occupied over the holidays, and I won't go crazy. And then once I get it all up and running, I will probably be selling most of my current build. So I'll probably get rid of the case that I have, which is a really nice case. I'm going to be really sorry to see that one go. Really nice case, my motherboard, my processor, my memory, and probably one of my M2 hard drives. And my AIO cooler that goes with it. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that probably go as part of this build. Yeah. But like I said, it'll be good. I am going to miss this case. This is a really nice case. Like, this case was really expensive, and I'm going to miss this case. It's a nice one. But, I mean, the case that I'm using for my new build is like the centerpiece of my build because it's going to have that custom reservoir. So, yeah. So I've started to prepare the way. I've got the pieces and the parts. Yeah. Mandy, if you're listening, don't look in the back cellar. I'm really sorry.
Is that what you're stockpiling?
So yeah, that'll be fun. And I'll probably take lots of pictures and tweet about my journey and everything that's happening there. Hey, speaking of, last episode I talked about the challenge of finding the perfect gift for each other. I'll be happy to report that I received an excellent suggestion from a friend of the show. I'm not going to say who, for you. Okay. And you know what? It beats any idea I previously had.
Oh, so you were already bragging that you were going to win.
Oh my God,
and
Paul,
now you just said that idea was garbage. Now you have a better idea.
Yeah, that should tell you what you're up against here. Yeah, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. The only problem is, how do I say this without giving it away? I'm giving you the chance to have a certain lifestyle, and it is up to you to continue your journey once you receive this gift. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Oh, that's the best gift of all. Was the friends we made along the way.
I've been thinking about what do I get Drew, and I've gone many different directions, and I just can't decide on. I'm so indecisive. And there's so much pressure because you said that you were already going to win, and I want to win, but you said you even have a better idea, and I still want to win. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Okay.
You might as well pack it in and just get me a gift card at this point, because you're not going to win.
Boo! No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I know we will be seeing each other over the holidays, I'm told.
Yes, quite possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll probably do the gift exchange before that. We could maybe do it live, where we'll have the treats sent to each other's homes, and then we can open them on the show. And then we can take pictures and put them in the show notes. That'll be fun.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
Let's see. Have you got your other than me, the most important person in your life? Have you done any other Christmas shopping yet?
So my wife generally handles most of the stuff for the kids, so I don't have to worry about that, except for, like we talked last episode or 2 episodes ago, the stuff I'm going to get for Zach's computer. I haven't gone out and purchased that stuff yet, but that should be a relatively easy trip to Micro Center and get that out of the way. I've started thinking about gifts for my wife. We try not to do big gifts for Christmas because it's mostly about the kids, and we're both adults that we just buy what we want when we want it. But I'm trying to think of some good gifts for her, things that would fun things that she wouldn't necessarily think of buying herself. So yeah. I mean, we're getting there. It's only December 5th. Plenty of time. Like 19 shopping days. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
how's your Christmas shopping going?
Yeah, I mean, I placed a bunch of online orders. There are actually things on my list that are going to require me to go out in humanity to get. Like, I'm actually going to have to go to physical stores to get some of the things I need. So that'll probably happen, I don't know, over the next few days. I want to get that out of the way quick, just because I hate going out to the store.
Yeah.
So I'll get those done, and I'll probably feel good about myself. I guess I'll have to figure out. There's a couple family members I'm not really sure what I'm getting them yet, but for the most part, I've got most of my list made. I've sent my list over to the people that buy me things. Yeah, and like December's a busy month for us as a family anyway, because we have an anniversary, we have the Christmas holiday, and then we also have my birthday. My real birthday.
Your non-asterisk.
Non-asterisk birthday.
Yeah.
Like for real, turning 40 in the eyes of the government. Like turning 40. Yeah. That was a good time.
We have a little time left. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah, let's go.
Something that just happened to me.
Okay.
So, this happened on Tuesday. So, as part of what I do for my job, there's a lot of like third-party vendor software that you buy, things that you don't want to build, or things that are too difficult to build.
So, are we talking about quote-unquote enterprise software?
Yeah, this is very enterprise software. This is probably like the enterprisiest of enterprise software. This is like telephony and workforce management stuff, right? Like replacing phone systems and stuff, right? So like I'm not involved in this directly, but like a lot of my colleagues are talking to vendors, and one of them, I'm not going to name names, even though I probably can't remember it anyway. They were having an event so basically it was, come, we'll talk about the product, you can meet some people, you can chat, we'll feed you, we'll give you some drinks, and then we'll go watch a Blue Jackets game. And you know me, I love the hockey. I love the Columbus Blue Jackets, even though they stink this year. And I got invited to go. I'm like, well, you know what? I will sit through anything. I will sit through a vendor pitch.
Oh no!
To get free food, free beer, and a Jackets game. So I've been through a lot of sales pitches. I've had good ones. I've had bad ones. I've never had one so strange. So this, obviously they were focusing on, I mean, it's the customer interaction piece, right? So they're dealing with, call centers and people calling in and people wanting to do like web chat on the phone and people who want to do like, web chat online and do like, send an SMS message and get support via that, right? So that they're a big kind of customer experience platform. And they also have like workforce management, so you can kind of like feed it a bunch of data and then it will tell you how many agents it thinks you need to have on the phone, and then it even does like just basic like phone, like telephony, like being able to have a phone at your desk and picking it up and calling somebody. So, and we're looking at cloud providers because we don't want any more hardware in our data center. We don't want to have to deal with that. Just like let someone else run the software wherever they want, right? So we get down and there's not a lot of people here, right? And it's a good mix of people that have just bought the software, people that are looking into it like us, right? So like probably 75% of the crowd are potential customers. And the guy who was giving the presentation, he was clearly a marketing guy. Like, he started with an analogy, basically comparing the cloud to the invention of like the steam turbine engine, which I thought was kind of a really weird analogy and not how I would lead a sales pitch. And then he's demoing a product, something that you would buy, a piece of software that people would interact with, on a daily basis. He didn't show the product. He really didn't talk about the product. It was mostly a raw, like, hey, we do microservices. And hey, do you like bots? You can build a bot and then run it on our platform.
Hello, fellow children.
Yeah. Yeah. So like no description of features that like outside of like big, like, hey, we have some AI stuff that we run and we'll tell you stuff. And the great thing about an AI is when you tell it you did the wrong thing, it doesn't get snarky. And like, not once in his 50-minute presentation did he actually like give examples of what the software did or showed it, or like there was no like demo. It was just these weird analogies and like
take a stroll through my mind garden.
Yeah, like, hey, we do thousands of updates a day, and hey, we just changed the color, and we gave everyone like 6 months notice we were changing the color on the website, and like it was the strangest. Like, I've just had pure bad sales pitches before. Like the guy, like, you can't bet 1,000 all the time. Like sometimes you're on the phone with somebody and you're just like, you're hungover or something. You're just phoning it in, right? Literally phoning it in. But at least like there's a demo where there's like, hey, like, what are you looking for in a piece of software? This is what we do. This is, it was nothing about that. It was more about their like software delivery process, and like they had this huge hard on for artificial intelligence and bots, and like dude, like we're literally here because we have a line item in our budget to spend a considerable amount of money on a piece of software like this. Like, just sell me the software.
Yeah, see, like,
don't make
I feel like
Steam.
So a couple things, right? I feel like that's a giant red flag. Like, just trust us, it's good. And that's like the company logo, right? Like, I don't know. To me, that's a giant red flag. I don't know crap about telephony, but
Me neither.
I hope that cooler heads will prevail on this purchase. But it's not my monkey, not my circus anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like a lot of people were so crazy about AI that we're throwing AI in places where really what they mean is like linear regression. So
yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Right, like you're trending down. Well, yeah, it's 8:00 at night. Like, yeah, like a lot of people are just doing some base statistics and calling it AI, but that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah, man, that sounds interesting. I mean, you still got to enjoy the game though, right? Or did you feel bad enough that you left?
No, I stayed for the whole game, and I ate their chicken tenders and hot dogs, and drank some of their beers, and they handed out stocking hats for swag. So that was different.
Wow, they spent all that money and didn't show you a demo. Well, hold on. To be fair, like, are we past? When I say we, are you past the demo phase of this product? Like, if you have people at least seen it and touched it and thought, man, this is pretty cool. Like, are you already kind of in the running to buy this thing, and they're like basically saying thank you in a very weird way?
Yeah, I think that we've had discussions, but like we weren't the only people there that were trying to make a decision, and you could tell by the questions that some of the people were asking. Like, they were asking some detailed questions, especially like around the workforce management piece, and like they didn't answer. They just like, hey, yeah, don't be afraid, you can write a bot too. AI, microservices, woo!
Dojo.
Yeah.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah. And I don't know whether or not like they had like a technical sales guy on deck to give the presentation. It was going to be better, and like this guy was definitely. I think he told me like afterwards that he was a developer in his earlier life, and kind of like helped found the company, but now he does nothing but marketing stuff, and like it was very marketing focused. It was very like. It would almost feel like it's the kind of presentation you would give to like investors.
Oh, so more elevator pitch than like actual product pitch. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So new challenge. I'm gonna like basically show up somewhere where something like this is going on and just pretend to be the person giving the presentation. Like I'm just gonna walk into like an airport Marriott where something's happening and just be like, hey, I'm here for the presentation. No, you don't understand. I'm your speaker. Yeah. But I'm supposed to be speaking. What, you didn't get the memo? Like Chuck didn't call you? Like just walk in and just like do the presentation. Well, hey, you got a free hockey game and some beer and some food out of it.
Yeah. So that was fine, and I'll sit through about anything for a free hockey game. But I mean that it had to be expensive because, like, the to rent the space to give the presentation. To rent the space for like, to give people hockey tickets to the game, the catering, the beer, like, I mean, they probably dropped some serious money.
Was the event at the arena?
Yeah, it was at the arena.
Was it up in that like upper big room?
Yeah. Yeah. So like the presentation itself was in like they have a couple of small little conference rooms kind of hidden back in the lower floors, and that's where it was. And then we went upstairs to the Sky Terrace. It's the most nosebleed up in the way up at the top. But it's nice because like there's a big area that you can set up, there's a nice area to stand around and talk. You can set up the catering, you can set up the bar, and there's plenty of seats for people to sit and watch the game. And like, I mean, they're not the best seats in the house, but it's fine. Like, it's a great arena. You can see the ice from just about anywhere. Yeah, it's just they had to spend a lot of money on that presentation, and I got nothing out of it except I got a good story out of it.
Well, how many people were there?
I mean, maybe towards the end there was maybe like 40 people.
So, of 40 people, how many companies do you think? Like, you guys took a little contingent, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had like 5 people there. I mean, maybe there was like 6 companies.
Like, hey, I'm the closer. I'm gonna get in here. I'm gonna close these deals. Business time.
Hey, AI is very popular these days.
Yeah.
AI, it doesn't talk back when you tell it it's wrong.
And like, how do I say this gracefully? I've never met like a young like telephony person. I don't think they necessarily want to hear about AI is going to take their job away. Maybe not lead with that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's face it. Like most on-premises phone switch operators are not fresh out of college. Let's put it that way.
That is true. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the COBOL programmers of our old age. Let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our alien overlords will come down and wonder what we ever did with the VIA switches.
Yeah, and I mean that's why. I mean, yeah, they do telephony, but they do more than that, right? Like it's the whole customer interaction piece, like being able to do the web chats or the Facebook Messenger, that kind of stuff.
So, how many times did you hear the word sentiment analysis?
At least once. Yes, okay. At least once. Yeah. And then like talking about how they could like use their AI to analyze the phone calls and rank your agents based off of their skill level, so you can know who needs more training. And like, okay, like show me that. Like, what does that look like? How do you set up these skills? What kind of training period do we need?
AI, am I right?
Yeah, it just works.
Oh dear. Well, money well spent, I'm sure.
I hope so.
All right, let's kill this thing. All right, where can people find us, Paul?
We are on the internet at doingtheirbest.com. You can send us emails to contact@doingtheirbest.com. You can reach the podcast on Twitter at doingbestpod. You can reach me personally on Twitter at Paul Baylor. That's BAHLER. It looks like baller. And where can we find you, Drew?
I am on Twitter at PITTFURG. I would love to hear from you if you're not already following me or need anything to say. Send us your holiday questions. We love talking about our personal life, obviously. So if you have questions about things but let me put it to you this way. We're your official conduit to complain about your life. So if you want to ask us a question about how you would handle a situation, and we will gladly leave your name out of it. So feel free to ask us questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, another week.
Another week.
We'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, absolutely.